Good morning and happy Friday. It's November 6th, 2020. Journal 390, T+594, I think. I have to be close enough. This is a difficult blog to create, actually. Much more difficult than I thought it would be or hoped it would be. And I'll explain that as I go along, because it really has to do with something that I wrote about in Misfire, what to do when things aren't running on all cylinders. And that was a chapter on the fact that pain cancels technique. And, it was written within the context of martial arts training. It was written in the context of sparring, in the context of contact, physical contact, and the fact that when push comes to shove, literally, and you're hurt, it's difficult to focus. And whatever advantage you might have as far as training and technique are concerned, they're likely to go out the window. And the same thing happens in life and in business. If you're in business and you have a process set up and there's a failure of that process to maintain itself or to create the desired result, then quite often, things start to fall apart, and the process is ultimately abandoned because of the pain involved, caused by the failure. Whatever failure it was, it really doesn't matter. Same thing happens in life when your plans are disrupted or when you're faced with a health crisis, as many of us have been and still are. I know it's affected me deeply over the last 4 hospitalizations, because each time that happens, there's this disruption, and the disruption is considerable, and it sets you back, and it's really easy to feel sorry for yourself and to say, "Oh, woe is me! Oh, this is terrible!" Or why even try? You're doomed. It makes no difference, and that's the worst thing you can do. Without any question, the absolute worst thing that you can do. You got to find a way to muscle through it, which is not always easy. As a matter of fact, it's quite often very difficult, and those things need to be taken into consideration. However, the way that I've been successful in doing it, at least to some degree, has been the focus on process, to focus on the projects that I have in front of me. And the way that I've been able to do that is by making lists of all the things that need to get done. Many times, lists that are overwhelming, just in the scope and size of what I'd like to do, what I'd like to get accomplished, what I'd like to get done, and what's actually possible under the circumstances. And that's what this blog is really all about, is what's possible under the circumstances. And in many cases, that's a case of diminished capacity. And it could be the result of the drugs that you're taking. It could be the result of the pain that you're trying to endure and work past. It could be for a number of different reasons. In my case, it's right now the latest hospitalization was for shingles. Shingles affected the left side of my face, around the eye socket, around the eye, forehead. And I don't know that there's any real way to describe the pain. And believe me, I'm not looking for sympathy, because many of you are going through things that are at least as debilitating, if not more. We're having this conversation, so I'm okay. I'm looking outside at the green side of the grass. I'm doing fine. Pain is a great way to know that you're still alive. Pain is a great reminder of what's wrong and what needs attention, so that you can go ahead and communicate that to your care team, to your doctor, and try and get relief. The problem is that a lot of times relief comes in forms and in ways that you would really rather not take advantage of. And I'll give you a really good example of that. The pain of shingles is debilitating. That's one of the reasons I was so intent on really forcefully suggesting that you go get a shot if you haven't got one yet. You don't want this. You don't want to find out how right I am when it comes to how debilitating this is. So that part of that discussion is really critical. Once you have it, and in my case, there was nothing I could do about it. I did get the shot. Unfortunately, I got the shot 2 months before I went and got the transplant. Transplant wiped the shot out, just erased it. So, man plans, God laughs. Many times, the plans of mice and men often go astray. And in this case, there was certainly what happened here. The problem is that there's no way to describe the horrific pain that's associated with shingles. They're nerves that have been assaulted by the virus, and because they've been assaulted, they scream out in protest. And Leslie and I spent the better part of a day trying to track down 2 medications that were prescribed by one of my physicians to try and alleviate the pain. We're finally able to get them after going to 4 other pharmacies. That's a whole other column on service and quality of service. But the bottom line is we finally were able to get them. One's a lidocaine cream that helps numb the surface area of the skin, so the pain won't be quite as acute, quite as exquisite. It doesn't make it go away. It just makes it bearable, almost tolerable. And another drug, gabapentin, which generally is prescribed for nerve damage. You'll see it advertised for restless leg syndrome. I didn't think that was a thing until I wound up getting it. But it is a thing, and the gabapentin does help. The problem is that gabapentin, to give you an idea of what the pain of shingles is like, the gabapentin is prescribed for restless leg syndromes, 100 milligrams. The pain dose for gabapentin for shingles is 300 milligrams, 3 times as much. And that's great, but it makes you feel like a zombie. And as do the other opioids that are prescribed to help mitigate or manage the pain. So what you do is, if you're trying to be productive, if you're trying to remain relevant, if you have something to say that you really want to say, that you're working on, that you think is important, and I'm working on the car care book, on the customer care book for misfire, and I'm working on a number of other projects. One is a white paper on productivity and automotive shop management that I just started the other day. Is you make lists. You make lists of things that are important, and as I said a moment ago, those lists can be unrealistic. It really doesn't matter. The important thing is that you wind up putting down on paper all the things that are important to you and all the things that you'd like to get done, and then you figure out which of those things is most likely to get done and which of those things is most important to get done, and you try and create a balance between the two so that whatever is really both important to get done and possible to accomplish float to the top. And those are the things that you address first. Well, that's fine if you're able to function, if you're able to produce, if you're able to work without it becoming exhausting. And in this case, the case of shingles, it really has, which is one of the reasons that I'm doing this blog instead of doing something else that would probably be more productive and more in line with what I just told you needs to be done. But the fact of the matter is, I think, this needs explanation, and I think it can help other people, which is my criterion for what appears here generally. And the other issue is that by talking about it, I'm actually helping to go ahead and validate these ideas in my own psyche, in my own mind, so that I can follow through and get things done. The problem that comes to mind immediately is that if you've ever taken pictures, if you're ever a photographer, and you ever decided that you wanted to create a very moody kind of an image that's kind of blurred, a lot of times photographers will put Vaseline on the lens, and that creates an opaque kind of an image. And to a large degree, working with these opioids or these other medications inside your system is a lot like that. You see what you're doing. You can actually see some kind of semblance of reality, but it's not clear. It's not crisp, and it's not precise enough to work with. So that's my struggle. My struggle is this morning is somewhere between pain and process, somewhere between trying to make things happen and actually being able to have things happen, to be able to actually create. So I'll let you think about all of this while I go back to trying to figure out what it is I do next, whether I work on the car care, customer care book, or whether I work on the white paper. And the good news is that I can go ahead and check creating a blog post off that list. So in the meantime, stay safe, stay home, stay focused, stay strong. Take care.